Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Pirette, and today we're going to talk about how you get to sleep better and what you have to pay attention to get a better sleep in the nighttime. And we get right into our topic. Today's guest is Dawn. Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Corette.
Nice to have you in the show.
Nice to be back.
And for the viewers, Dawn is right now working as energy healer, but her background is as a sleep technologist, right?
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
what is a sleep technologist?
So I was a registered sleep technologist or registered polysomnography technologist, if you want to sound really fancy. So what that was is I worked in the sleep lab and we did sleep studies. A lot of the times people came in and maybe had sleep apnea or restless legs or things like that. So we would hook them up to a bunch of different monitors and electrodes. We'd monitor the brain. We'd monitor the respiration in various ways, and we'd watch them on a computer screen all night long and record their sleep. So I did that for about 12 years. I worked with adults
Oh,
and pediatrics. I worked at Tufts Medical Center here in Boston for 10 years and a couple other hospitals in the area. And then I worked at a children's sleep center when I lived down in Florida. Um, so then I kind of got out of that field once I had my son, and now I look at sleep. It's not the main focus of my work right now, but I do help people because obviously taking care of yourself in a spiritual way and a healthful way, sleep is still very important and the
hmm.
foundation um, of health and wellness when we get a good night's sleep. We all really need that good restorative sleep, and that can look very different for a lot of different people. So, while I have the background in the medical stuff, a big portion of what we would talk to all our patients about is what we would call sleep hygiene.
Okay.
So this is where we get into, the tools and techniques that everybody can use when it comes to having a better quality sleep. Before maybe we get into that, I can also talk a little bit about the different phases of sleep that we all go through.
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds good. Let's start from that.
Yeah. So every one of us has what's called a circadian rhythm. And that is like the underlying baseline just of our cycles. And really, it going back minus the past, say, 200 years, before we have electricity and our lights and everything, everyone really kind of went with a rhythm of the sun and moon and light and dark wherever you lived in the world. So that's going to look a little bit different for certain people. And obviously, people that live in places where they get a lot of sunlight and a lot of darkness, it's going to be a little different. And of course, they will have to use other techniques to kind of create that circadian rhythm given the light and dark being out of, well, I guess it is its own rhythm where it is in that part of the world, but where they'd have longer periods of each of those phases. So for those of us that live where it's a little more equal ish, we have an easier time with our sleep. Um, so most people might notice, the sun comes up in the old days again, people would kind of get up then and of course do their farm chores and all of that stuff. And then you go through the day, we naturally have this dip in that circadian rhythm where we would get a little tired around
Hmm.
say 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And that is a normal rhythm for most people. And same thing, it's going to dip again in the middle of the night around the same time. So some people notice, oh gosh, I'm always waking up around 3 or 4 in the
Hmm.
morning. So that kind of stuff is normal. And of course, people can have a little bit of variation of when that happens in their own body. But we see in certain cultures and places, especially in hotter climates, people take that afternoon nap around that time, that little siesta time, right? Of course, in America here, we just run on Duncan, right? So we just burn right through that, and we've moved so far away from listening to the rhythm of our
Hmm.
body. And most people, again, going back before all this electricity stuff, would go to sleep after the sun went down.
Mm-hmm.
And, now we're told, oh, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep. That's the average ideal for most people. And again, most people in this country don't get enough sleep. But the bottom line is that's an average number. So you really need to take the time to see what is your ideal number. Some people can go with 7 hours, some people need 9 hours. And the whole idea is that those 8 hours are consolidated every single night for every single person. It's really not true.
Mm-hmm.
All wake up a couple times during the night. All of us do. It depends on how long, and that's going to vary from person to person.
Mm-hmm. And that's connected to the sleep cycles, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so that's kind of the basic overall structure of sleep patterns. But then once we actually fall asleep, and the reason why we put those electrodes on people's heads when we're doing the sleep studies is we can see by the brain waves what stage of sleep people are in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's four main stages of sleep. So, and it's stage one, stage two, stage three, and REM. That is going to be a little different in newborns and babies in the first, months to year of their life. And brainwaves do look a bit different with kids than adults, but we all have the same underlying patterns that we cycle through. So, an awake brain has its own pattern, um, versus, eyes closed, eyes open. You'll see a different pattern, as well with that. And then we get into those sleep phases. So phase one is that very light phase of sleep. That's often the phase where if someone said, "Hey, Perrette," you'd be like, "What? I was awake. I was awake." So you still hear what's going on around you. Funny thing is, usually you don't hear yourself snoring in that light phase of sleep. Maybe occasionally if you snort yourself awake, but usually you don't hear that. But you can still hear if the TV's on or people are talking or something in that stage one. And again, it has its own characteristics in the brain waves. I don't feel like we need to get too into that part. Um, Phase two, you're starting to get a little bit deeper. The brain patterns start to change, they begin to slow down a little bit. And again, you can kind of still hear what's going on around you, but you're transitioning into those deeper phases of sleep once you hit that stage two. You can also get startled awake in that phase. So it's a little bit deeper than that first, stage one. Stage three, now this is where we want to spend a lot of time in. And if we're lucky, we do. If we're younger, we do. Stage three is that deep restorative sleep. The brain waves really slow down. And all of these sleep phases, we go through all of them in a cycle again
Mm-hmm.
every 90 to 120 minutes. So we'd go one, two, three, then maybe REM. So we kind of cycle through that as we go through the night. Um, Excuse me, let me back up for a minute and talk about REM real quick. So REM, rapid eye movement, right? So most
Mm-hmm.
of us have heard of that term, and that is the phase of sleep where we have dreams.
Okay.
And we all need to dream. I don't think that we necessarily fully understand the why of that, but we do know that it is very necessary. There's been studies done, and there could be more studies and more research. I've been out of this field, for about 10 years now, so
Mm-hmm.
there could be some more information that I'm not updated on yet. But REM is a very, important phase of sleep. We all need to have it. Studies that have been done where they have sleep deprived people and wake them up every time they are about to go into REM.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, those people, when deprived of it enough, start hallucinating while they're awake. So almost dreaming while
Okay.
they're awake. So deep sleep, that's stage three, and REM sleep are very, very important for all of us to have those cycles. So some.
And can I ask you a question? The
Sure.
REM sleep, how long it usually? It doesn't last really long. It's just only usually, or
It
is there?
depends. So again, we go through those four stages of sleep every 90 to 120 minutes. So throughout the night, we're getting, so say if you're sleeping 6, 7, 8 hours, you're going through those cycles about three or four times
Oh,
a
okay.
night. So as the night goes on, during the first half of the night, we tend to spend more time in that deep sleep phase. As we get
Mhm.
closer to the morning, as we go through a cycle or two of that, the deep sleep gets shorter and the REM period gets longer. And what we notice in our sleep about our dreams does not necessarily indicate the amount of time that we're spent in REM.
Mhm.
One other interesting thing that happens is if you are sleep deprived for some reason, say, I don't know, one night you couldn't sleep, or you had an emergency or something going on for a
Mhm.
night or two that you just didn't get, you didn't get your sleep. Maybe you were up for
Mhm.
24 hours for whatever reason. When you go to sleep the next time, you could have what's called REM rebound, which
Okay.
means that you have more REM sleep. So your
Mhm.
body and your brain actually make up for lost time for those phases of REM.
Hmm.
So we
Okay.
notice that often, again, we worked with a lot of patients that would have sleep apnea. So the REM phase is what would get interrupted with the sleep apnea the most. So when they come back and be put on the treatment for that, we would notice they would go into REM for a long time during the night, which is
Mhm.
really cool. So just another indication that for whatever it is, our brain needs that, our body needs that, and that's the restorative sleep. As we get older, unfortunately, we don't get as much of that beautiful stage 3 deep sleep that we used to. And even the REM can start to drop off a little bit with how much we have it. So as we get older, I feel like, you maybe get less sleep, but then I feel like also when you get to that older age, you're allowing yourself that time to take those naps during the day.
Mhm.
Once you're retired and stuff, and you have that luxury to do that, which is really good for you.
Yeah.
We don't have to have all the sleep consolidated into that 8 hours. And I think that that's kind of been pushed upon us to think that way, but it doesn't have to be all that one big solid chunk. You do want a big solid chunk of sleep.
Mhm.
However, you don't have to get all that 8 hours put together. If you take a nap earlier, if you find that you wake up during the night, you some people do get up for a little while. Give yourself permission to do that if that's what you
Mhm.
need to do.
What
And
I
then,
do, like, if I can interrupt you for a second, what
sure.
I do, I don't get up, but I like, I stay in the bed, but I just aware of it, and I just stay in the bed thinking of some kind of nice things until I
Yeah.
go
And
to sleep.
that's great because once we get aggravated or we start to dwell on, whatever issue of the week is going on, then you're activating your brain. It's really waking up, and then you're going to have a harder time falling back to sleep. So, a great thing to do is just that. Think about something calm. No, okay, I'm awake right now, and that's all right. It's okay that I'm awake right now. This is normal. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just going to lay here and think about calm things until I'm able to fall back asleep.
Mhm. Okay, we can go
Okay.
back to
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So you were explaining how the eight it doesn't have to be always 8 hours.
Yeah, and again, my husband, he does well with about 7 hours. Now he's doing a lot of physical labor, so sometimes he needs a bit more than that. Whereas I've always been more of like a 9 hour person.
Mhm.
So again,
Mhm.
you got to find what works for you and your body, and really tune in and listen to your body. And I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people don't really know how to do, and it's just simply bringing more attention and more awareness into how you feel and noticing, when you feel good, how much sleep did you get that day? When you don't feel so good, how much sleep did you get then? So keeping a journal or a log if you're having some issues is a great thing. And also for us women, we have to keep in mind that our monthly cycles can influence
Yes.
our sleep as well. And
Mhm.
depending on where we are in that cycle, we might need more sleep. Sometimes we might get a little bit of less sleep. So tuning into that too is going to help you figure that out.
Mhm. Because I have that, I think the day before ovulation, I have the day that I'm really tired and I do feel like taking a nap close, not even in the middle of the day, like closer to the night, like
Hmm.
around 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I can still sleep good night sleep, but I'm also, when I'm trying to fall asleep, it's harder for me to fall asleep both times, for a nap time, the other time. But I
Right.
do feel like I need more sleep. And there's another day
Mm.
as well. There's 2 days in a month where I do feel that I need more sleep than regular.
Yeah, and what a wonderful awareness that you know that, and so that way, we can kind of check that out on the calendar, right? So we know and we can plan, our life, or some of us are able to at least tweak a little bit to plan our life around that. So when you know,
Mhm.
okay, I'm coming into my days that I'm going to need extra sleep, take it easy. Well, maybe that's not the day you go to the gym. Maybe that's not, or maybe it is.
Yeah,
Again, depending
like,
on what
yeah, to
feels
get
good for your
active.
body.
Mhm. If I get active, then it might change. But if I do some homework, like work on a computer, like something, that I feel more tired. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of connected as well.
Yeah,
But
and
what
you're staring at the screen, definitely.
mhm. So we
Yeah.
had to take those breaks. What I wanted to say when you talked about that when I do have those days when I feel more sleepy, I learned important for me as well not to feel guilty about doing
Yes.
that, because the comes in the beginning. Guilt came in because I was thinking like, oh, but I have to this and I have all those things that I need to be doing today. Like, how can I just like feel sleepy now and feel
Yeah,
like exhausted and body feels differently? And I learned that I need to, my body just, it's not about my mind, me, or something. My body needs that. I have to give that to my body. And now, I feel less guilty, and some days I don't feel guilty at all. Depends.
that's great. That's great. And yeah, we all do this kind of stuff to ourselves, right? And this is one thing that I tell my clients that I work with now. So when you notice that negative mindset coming in, and I know you work with clients as well on this. So I tell people step one, just notice. Just start
Mm-hmm.
noticing when those thoughts come in and just stop them. Okay, nope. I don't have to do that to myself. I don't have to think about that. The more you stop those thoughts in its tracks, the less they're going to just keep cycling through our brain. Next phase after you, okay, stop. Okay, thank you, brain, stop. Okay, thank you, brain, stop. Then you can start shifting and replacing those with the positive. So, oh gosh, ugh, I'm so exhausted because I'm in this phase of my cycle on this one day out of two a month that this happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I have to do all these things. Okay, stop. Thank you. I know I have to do all these things. Okay, which of these things have to get done today? I'm tired. Any of these things are not getting my 100% today. I know that. Okay, what has to be done today? And prioritize that list. Okay, this
Mm-hmm.
one thing has to be done today. These three things, can they wait till tomorrow? Yes. Can I
Mm-hmm.
allow myself some grace today? Or
Mm-hmm.
can I take a nap? And then
Mm-hmm.
let me do this one thing now. Can I take a nap and do two out of those other three things after? Let me
Mm-hmm.
try that and see how I feel.
Yeah, I've done that as well. I've done like where and it's kind of funny as well the way I address it. I take that nap and I say like I'm just starting the day over. So like after the nap, I'm
Yeah.
pretty much like, okay, now morning, like almost the same way, like a breakfast. There has been even some days, because some days I work in a computer all day. So I worked all morning in a computer, right, and sometimes right there out of my bed, out of on my pajamas. So when I take that nap, then I actually go and take a shower as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like it could be in the middle, like 3 o'clock a day, but a lot of people actually can be to other people as well, because a lot of people now work on their computer from their home sometimes. Not every day. I don't work in it. I don't do that every day as well, but there are some days when I do that.
Yeah, yeah, and a short 20-minute, half an hour power nap can do wonders for you too. If you get into a longer nap, sometimes you can feel a little more tired if you don't
Hmm. You
get
don't
through
want to
all
sleep
those
too long.
sleep phases. But again, this is something you have to find what works for you. I am not a good napper unless I am very exhausted. Usually, if I take a nap, I wake up and I feel more groggy after that. So I'm better off me getting some movement or just sitting down and letting myself rest. So
Hmm.
I don't even necessarily close my eyes. And that's just me. I'm not a good napper. My
Hmm.
husband can go take a nap and he gets up and he feels refreshed and great and he can go back at it. I feel groggy and cranky after I take a nap
Hmm.
most times. So,
That's why
um,
it's important to know that. Like for me, I
yeah.
know like I had to spare time for my nap because I already know like my sleep cycle has been since I was really young. When I do take a nap, it takes me 2 hours. My nap is 2 hours. I have to make sure I have that 2 hours to take a nap. And sometimes it even works for me. It doesn't bother to me if I take my nap right before I go to sleep.
Mm,
Like I can even like I don't do naps often or they're not regular naps, but
yeah.
sometimes I do have to. If I go to sleep, let's say let I take my nap at 6, and then I do that little one, like you said, 90-minute cycle.
Hmm.
I go through that cycle of good sleep, and then I wake up for another like 2 hours or something and get some other things done, like arrange some things, and then I'm able to go back to sleep again.
That's
But I
great.
know, yeah.
If I did that, I would be up till 3 in the morning.
Hmm. And that's why that you have people have to know themselves
Absolutely.
when is their nap time, and even if they need a nap time, like you said, you don't need a nap time.
Sometimes I probably do need one. It's just I just don't do well with it, so I have
Yeah.
to find something else that works well for me. Um, so one other thing I wanted to talk about that's really important, and these are tips that everyone can use to help better their sleep. And in the sleep world, we would call this sleep hygiene.
Hmm.
So this is just kind of cleaning up your sleep habits, right?
Yep.
So first of all, if sleep is not a problem for you, then it's not a problem. And I pretense what I'm about to say with that is because some of the things I'm going to suggest, people don't like it because
Mhm.
it
Okay.
interrupts their habits. So if sleep is not an issue for you and you have some of these bad sleep hygiene, right? Um, do what works for you. So if you have your thing and it's working, wonderful. If you're having issues with sleep and you do some of these things, this is where you kind of want to pay attention and try some different things and see what works for you. Now, we're not getting into supplements and sleep
Hmm.
issues
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So if you feel like you have a sleep disorder, find a healthcare professional to go
Hmm.
to work out some of that stuff.
Hmm.
This, however, is just for all of us, with our sleep patterns and habits. So, number one, I will mention caffeine though. So, this is the one, thing
Hmm.
that I am going to mention. We all are over caffeinated in this country. Let's just face it. America runs on Dunkin', right? I mean, gosh, that's our slogan. So that we push, 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 push. We ignore our bodies and we go, 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 and we have our jet fuel, right? So, caffeine, believe it or not, affects all of us. It affects your brain waves, it affects those sleep patterns, even a little bit. It just does. Okay.
Hmm.
I drink coffee. I love coffee. It is a comfort to me, it is enjoyable to me. However, I drink 1 cup of coffee a day
Hmm.
in the morning, probably about 12 ounces is my cup of coffee, and that is it. I don't drink any other caffeine throughout the day. I do eat chocolate, which does have some caffeine in it. So just
Hmm.
bear in mind, if you don't know what has caffeine in it, I invite you to look into that a little more because it is in more things than we think. So we got coffee, we got most sodas. Again, I'm talking about Coca-Cola
Hmm.
and Pepsi and Mountain Dew and all those things, and never mind all the energy drinks that are out there on the market.
Yeah.
One energy drink has entirely too much caffeine than any body needs in any given day. Sorry to break
Hmm.
it to you if you love energy drinks, anyone listening out there, but they're really not good for you. And it's too much. You could probably drink about an ounce to get the amount of caffeine that you would need, and that's probably like an ounce that would be the amount of caffeine that you get in a cup of coffee. I don't remember all the amounts of caffeine in all these different things. I do know like a black tea or a green tea has less caffeine than a
Yes,
coffee,
they still do.
and a coffee is going to have less caffeine than any one of those energy drinks that are out there. So keep that in mind. If you're having insomnia, if you're having a hard time sleep, if you're not getting good quality sleep, and you drink a lot of caffeine, that's why. Sorry.
That's why.
And
Hmm.
I would, again, if you're gonna try and wean down on the caffeine, I would wean down. It is something that does cause withdrawal symptoms. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. Keep that stuff
Yeah,
in
but
mind.
it's even like I'll say with the sodas and everything, it's not just for your not good for your sleep, it's not good for so many other things as well. So if you can
Yeah.
cut down as much as possible, it's always good.
Yeah, and it's throwing off our chemicals in our body. It's spiking that cortisol, that stress hormone. So there is
Mhm.
other stuff, again, that's kind of out of the scope of our conversation here, but it definitely does a lot more in our bodies than we think about. So if you're having a tough time sleeping and you do consume a lot of caffeine, I would really suggest that you try to work on that, and be gentle with yourself because that's not easy. We don't need
Yep.
to beat ourselves up when we're already exhausted. And if it takes you a year to wean down, and decrease that amount of caffeine, then that's okay. That's what it takes.
Hmm.
So moving on from the caffeine. So checking on that. The other things is your bedroom. So our bedroom is a sanctuary for sleep. We should
Hmm.
not be doing anything else in our bedroom besides sleeping and being intimate with somebody. But other than that, we should not have a TV in our bedroom. We should not be sitting on our computer doing work in our bedroom. We should not be sitting there scrolling our phones in our
Hmm.
bedroom, or you shouldn't have your office in your bedroom. You're putting all of this awake work energy in there when you do that. So I'm kind of pulling my sleep training and also my holistic slash spiritual training. Right now, I have a bookshelf in my room, and I even want that out of my room. Not that
Hmm.
they're doing anything; they're just sitting there. But energetically, that's mind activating stuff, right?
Hmm.
So I'd like to get that out of there. I have not had a TV in my room, gosh, since I was probably like 22 years old, and I was living with other people and had spent a lot of time in my room. But since having my
Hmm.
own space, I've never had a television in my room. And granted, I also started working in a
Yeah.
sleep lab when I was 22. So I knew about, a lot of this stuff from work. So nothing in your room besides your bed. You want a tranquil, peaceful environment there. If you do need to read a little bit as you fall asleep, okay. But some people that works for and makes you sleepy. If it were me and I'm reading a good book, I will be up till 3 in the morning reading that book. So I don't read
Hmm.
in my bedroom. I will read in the living room, and then I will go to bed in my room. And again, all of this, figure out what works for you. Um, I mentioned computers and phones. We really don't want that blue light background in our face. Um, Ideally, like 2 hours before we go to bed. We don't want our phone in our face. We don't want a computer screen in our face. It probably does extend to the television, but I make an excuse that it's not right in my
Yeah.
face and it's up on the wall. So I'm okay with watching, and again, it's okay for me. I watch TV in the living room again before I go to bed. I will tell you, I am not perfect. I do scroll my phone too late. But again, if you're having issues, these are some things that you can try and eliminate. I make sure that my son
Hmm.
is off his screen at least an hour before it's time for bed. Um, So not having those screens in your face, ideally 2 hours before bed, 1 hour, even a half an hour. Again, find what's going to work okay for you when it comes to that. Um, so let's see, tranquil environment. Another thing is what is relaxing for you before bed. So doing like wind down habits.
Mhm.
So again, putting away the devices, kind of getting yourself into that zone, making a little ritual for yourself. So you're telling your body, okay, it's time to wind down. We're going to go to bed. So maybe you have a warm cup of tea that does not have caffeine. Many herbal teas don't have caffeine. So something like chamomile or just a little ritual. It doesn't have to be tea. It doesn't have to be anything like that. Just, to me, I think of like a nice warm cup is very relaxing. Or you put on some
That's
peaceful
how I was
music.
just about to say, like, how about those sleep musics and sleep sounds?
Yeah, yeah. So some people we have a sound machine in our house when we go to sleep, so it has a sound of the ocean.
Mhm,
I don't really recommend listening to anything that has words in it all night
mhm,
long.
mhm. No
Um,
words.
I wonder too. My husband needs the sound machine on all night long. I kind of wonder, gosh, would it be nice to just kind of shut that off or have it shut off once we kind of
Mhm,
drift off to sleep? I feel like our brains do need more quiet, especially in the world we live in today, because we have constant sensory
mhm.
overload coming at us every day, right? So it might be nice to have that full, peaceful quiet to give your brain totally that break. The other piece where I live, we live on a main street.
Yeah.
So if
That's
I
what I was
didn't have
just saying,
that,
like, most of those sound machines, they have, like, a time limit where they it
they
shuts
do.
off,
They
like,
do.
certain
Yeah.
time.
So in my house, that would, when it shut off, that would wake up my husband.
Yeah.
That would.
But
Um,
for the people who just need it for falling asleep,
yeah,
try that
yeah.
first. Try that first. Try the time limit first, and if that doesn't work, then you just have to have it all night. But
Yeah, but again, something without words, just like a white noise type
hmm
thing. Again, we have the sound of the ocean waves, and that works for us. And again, for me, I live on a main road, so by 4 in the morning, there's big, loud trucks that pass by my street. So
hmm
I'm sure my brain would get used to it. I've lived in a city before, and I've gotten used to those noises. However, just that steady, low background noise of the ocean waves is good enough to kind of drown out the other neighborhood noises and give us that good steady night's sleep. Um, Other activities that you can do before bed is you can do a meditation.
hmm
You can do some breathing exercises. And again, it's really nice if you get into a routine. We are human beings. We all crave
yeah.
routine, especially when it comes to these important pieces of our life,
And
like sleep.
yeah, the way I see it as well, the routine before right falling asleep, because your brain gets used to it. Like, okay, this sound is on, this thing is going on. I'm gonna put in the aromatherapy in a second as well. But if those things are going on, your brain automatically starts like, okay, we're doing those things. That means I'm getting ready to fall asleep. Their person is already my human is already in the bed.
Got it.
So I'm
Yes.
ready to fall asleep. So your brain just gets automatically, okay, time for bed, time to fall asleep. Everything's set up for me to fall asleep.
Yes, and the brain is a muscle just like any other muscle in our bodies, and it does well with that muscle memory. So when we create those routines, yes, our brain gets the signal, oh, it's time for sleep. It's time to be tired. Again, back in the day before electricity and artificial light, we were in the rhythm, that circadian rhythm. Okay, it's dark. Dark means sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And back in those days, people would have two sleeps. You hear about these two sleep phases. So people would
Mm-hmm.
go to bed when it got dark out, and then they'd wake up at some point, maybe to do their farm chores or all of that, and then go back to sleep for a couple hours. So usually that first chunk, maybe that's a bit longer, that say it's like 5 hours or whatever, and then maybe the second sleep is like 3 hours or something.
Hmm.
And again, a lot of the times when people wake in the middle of the night, it is that 3, 4 o'clock
Hmm.
time frame that
That's your
happens.
first cycle. That's your
Yeah.
first cycle. So it's normal to for you to wake up in there, and then you have to figure out how to go back to sleep and not to get upset that you woke up,
Yeah.
and just acknowledge
Yes.
this is
Yes.
my first cycle. Now I relax and get back to my second cycle.
Yeah, and so some things that happen, so what you do when you wake up is perfect. That's not going to work for everyone. So if you find yourself that you wake up and you're getting aggravated, or if it's taking you too long, you might need to get up out of bed for a little while. Um, and maybe this is not every night, or maybe this becomes your routine that you get up and you do, you're not turning all the lights on and I'm up for the day.
Mhm.
You kind of want to still keep a relaxed environment, and you don't want to do anything too stimulating to the mind. You'd want to do more quiet activities. Or if your mind is racing and you have all these thoughts, um, take out a journal, brain dump.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You
Hmm.
can brain dump. So this is before you go to bed for the beginning of the night, or if you wake up and your brain is just out of control active. Brain dump. So sometimes before, I don't usually do that in the middle of the night. Usually, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I am also able to lay in my bed, talk to myself calmly, and get myself back to sleep. Rarely do I need to get up. Sometimes it does happen though. But oftentimes I find myself at the first part of the night, I just have too much in my head, too much that I'm thinking about. So I'll take out my journal and literally just brain dump and
Hmm.
write all the thoughts, everything, that's going on in my head. I get that out on paper, and then I'm able to, okay, now it's not in here anymore. It's over here on
Hmm.
this paper. Okay, now I can settle down and bring it down a bit. And again, I do that activity outside of my bedroom. That stays in the living room. And the take what resonates of all of this conversation and leave the rest. If something really irritates you that I say, and you're like, you might want to explore that one a little bit, because there might be a reason that it's triggering something in you that needs to be
Hmm.
healed. But for the most part, take these tools and techniques and
Hmm.
make them your own, and find what is the best
Hmm.
situation for you. But getting all that stuff out of your head, or even recording it, onto a
Hmm.
device, voice recording it if you're not a writer. Um, something just to get it out of your brain.
Hmm.
Um, so let me think, what
Yeah.
else?
But I want this is what I wanted to bring in if you're looking for what else. Aromatherapy. I think a lot of I have not done it yet, but I know a lot of people they use the same scent, like same essential oil, and they always put it before going to sleep.
Hmm.
And that way, same way, the brain knows that this smell is for falling asleep. This is essential oil that we're getting, something calming, not something like citrusy or something. You, I know a lot of people who use lavender. Lavender doesn't work for me. I know that.
So here's the thing. So I follow using essential oils safely. So I feel like, and this is not my area of expertise, but I feel like a lot of people misuse essential oils or
Hmm.
overuse essential oils, and don't have all the safety information. And I'm not going to name names or of companies or anything, but some of the direct sales companies, um,
They
I
just sell.
I
Their
don't
goal
think
is
have.
to sell. Their goal is not
Yeah,
to help
yeah,
you. Their goal
yeah.
is to sell more oils to you.
So I think that they sometimes suggest unsafe practices. So again, it's not
Hmm.
my area of expertise. I don't want to get too much into it. I will say lavender, I just learned this recently. Lavender is relaxing or calming, but it's not sleep inducing.
Oh,
So for
okay.
some people that just need to calm down, it could be helpful with sleep. But it's not intended for sleep. It is intended
Yeah.
for calming. And if you are going to do some essential oils, the recommended, again, just from this using essential oil safely, is that you would have it on 10 minutes, off for 20.
Mm.
On 10, off for 20. So I would say if you're going to do that to go to sleep, pop it on for 10 minutes. Or if it's, that hour before you're going to bed, 10 on, 20 off, 10 on, 20 off.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is just like, when you're smelling all different essential oils or
Oh,
you're
because I
smelling all
was.
different perfumes, you numb out to it.
Mm-hmm.
So longer than 10 minutes, it's not
Mm-hmm.
doing its intended purpose, if that makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
sure, certainly stuff like that. Smell is, it definitely has that connection to our brain that it would create some of those like muscle memory things to
Mm-hmm.
happen is yes, here's this smell, or even just kind of having something that you just
That's
take a
what I was
little
thinking.
sniff of
Just to smell a
before.
little bit, not
Yeah.
to have the lamp on, but like just like put a little bit on yourself or something like that. I want to go back to lavender as well because lavender for me doesn't work at all. It's just people say it's calming, and that's why it's again important to know how it works for you. It's
Yes.
not like it can be like 10 from 10 people, 9 this oil does this, but you might be that one outside of that who does completely different with that.
Yes.
Like for
Mm-hmm.
me, calming scent is cinnamon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cinnamon is something that I can smell, it makes me calm and
Yeah.
relaxed. And citrus is something that makes me energetic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
lavender is just something like it's just I just don't like when I smell lavender. It just turns me off. I don't know why.
Mm,
It just,
mm.
but it's personal. So you have to like go
Absolutely.
through those smells, and don't just go by what it says. And you force if you already know it's not working on you, and you keep on forcing it yourself because somebody said like lavender is calming. It was like, well, it's not calming me, so I'm
Right.
not gonna use it. So you
Right.
leave it
Right.
on the side. You don't have to have
Yeah.
argument or anything. It's just like it's not working for me. I tried. Not gonna do that. I'll try something different.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the smell of lavender. However, years ago, I developed some type of allergy to it. So if I get it near
Oh,
my face or my eyes, it took me so long to figure out that's what it was because I wasn't ever allergic to it. I was fine. And then all of a sudden, I made this rose water and I included lavender in it and I was spraying my face with it every day
ooh,
and my eyes were so puffy and I just couldn't figure it out. And finally I stopped everything because I'm like, I've always used lavender. I've always used rose. Like, what's the problem
mm-hmm,
here? And I finally stopped it all.
mm-hmm.
And then one day, so my eyes went back to normal. And then I had a cup of tea that had lavender in it. So I picked up the tea bag and I put it in the cup and then I rubbed my eye and then my eye blew up
Oh,
again. So I figured
okay.
it out at least.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I can use it, on other spots of my body or something like that. But I try to avoid it. And then, of course, when you go to like, massage or when I go get my energy work, they have a lavender eye pillow. And I'm like, no, I can't use that.
Yeah, I can't even
um,
imagine to actually have it in your
but
face.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think when I was younger, I didn't have that much against lavender at all. It was I think it was like early 20s. I remember I didn't have any feelings against lavender. So sometime like that it came as well. So you have to notice. I think that's the thing as well. You have to notice that something changes in your body too.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of this too is we have to know ourselves. And you mentioned, all these people outside of us saying, oh, yeah, this does this, try this. And then we think, oh, God, this didn't work for me. There must be something wrong with me. And it's like, no, all of this stuff is not a one size fits all. So, out of all these tips, maybe you'll take this
Mhm.
one and that one and they'll work for you. Or maybe you'll take this one and that one and you're like, yeah, those don't work. Let me try one of these other
Something
ideas.
else.
And
Yeah.
then for me, something different is going to work. Just like we
Hmm.
talked about the naps. I can't take a 2-hour nap. I'll be up
Hmm.
all night if I do that. Um, So I got to find something else. I like to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. That works for me. Maybe you like to get up at 6, or maybe you like to get up at
Mm-hmm.
9. And the other piece of it is we're not all falling asleep at the same time every single night. We're not all getting up at the same time in the morning. We have to find what works for us, and we need to be able to quiet the outside noise of everyone else. Again, advice, it is advice. It's to take or leave or try and try something else. But there's nothing wrong with us if something that works for the 9 out of 10 doesn't work for us. Because you know what?
Mm-hmm.
If we take
Mm-hmm.
30 people, then maybe there'll be two other people like us that just doesn't work for. We're all
Mm-hmm.
different. We're all meant to be different. We don't need to all be the same. And we got to find what our rhythm is
Mm-hmm.
and
And
what
that's why I
helps to
wanted you
enhance
to
it.
be. That's why I wanted you to be here. To people need to have the knowledge, so they have knowledge about what the sleep is and how the person's what the sleep is, not how the person has to sleep, because we just mentioned that everybody is different, but they have to know the sleep cycles, how it works, the sleep patterns, and all this. And if they have that knowledge, then they can make their own personal choices and
Yes.
try different things until they find that sleep pattern, or not sleep pattern, but that sleep ritual that works for them specifically. And then just follow that.
Yeah. And so, just a couple other tips to go back to that kind of sleep hygiene and that ritual routine before bed. Movement in our bodies is important. So, again, some people do better off, and this is one thing that you really have to figure out what works for you. Some people do better off working out in the morning so that they're
Mhm.
able to fall asleep at night. Some people do better working out after work. And, again, I feel like workout is another thing that you want to at least leave a 1 to 2 hour window before your bedtime, because it can, it gets the endorphins going, it gets everything pumping. So I would suggest, so if you normally go to bed at 10 o'clock, I would make sure you at least work out, before 8, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Another thing is showers. I know many people that take their shower before they go to bed because it helps relax them and go to sleep, shower or bath. Showers wake me up.
Yeah, I use the
So,
same thing. I need a shower in the morning
yes,
because after that I feel like really awake.
yes, yes. So a shower for me is invigorating. My best friend, that's been my best friend, God, for over 30 years, she has to take a shower every night because
Mhm.
that's her wind down. If I'm guessing, she
Mhm.
probably takes her shower. She probably has her cup of chamomile tea or ginger tea, and she's curled up in her little bathrobe, and that's what gets her in sleep mode. And I'm sure she's got her sound and
Mhm.
whatever else that she has going on as well. If I took a shower at 9 o'clock at night, I would be up until midnight.
Yeah, I would feel that I would have to go somewhere and do something.
Yeah, 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 right. I'm getting ready to go out.
Exactly. That's cool. I want to before we start wrapping up because it's getting in like an hour, and I want to introduce one thing is always good to do instead of naps is yoga nidra in the middle of the day,
Mm, mm.
because that's like that one you can do like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or
Wow.
every day, and it's pretty much you're getting same amount of sleeping, like it feels like you're sleeping.
Right.
Have you done it?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very
So
restorative
yeah,
and restful.
yeah. So if somebody is watching right now, you can look up YouTube videos of yoga nidra and choose like 10-minute or 15-minute one that you can do turning the day. You just put on that YouTube video, you watch it, you do it, and it just feels like you slept for 2 hours sometimes. Like you feels
Yeah.
like you slept that full circle if you, and probably same thing if you start doing it routinely, your body gets used to it. It knows like, okay, we got this refresh,
Yes.
restart,
Yes.
and we keep on going on with our day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And same with deep breathing exercises. I know I mentioned that, but I do want to kind of highlight that a little bit is I also teach a grounding exercise to most of my clients. And that definitely helps us get out of our head, come down into our body. And it's just taking conscious, deep breaths. And I feel like most of us, of course, we all breathe or we wouldn't be here, right? But we don't think about it. We don't pay attention. We don't really notice when we hold our breath, or, and to me, I notice I hold my breath if I'm thinking too much or if I'm really
Okay.
concentrating on something. So, taking those conscious deep breaths definitely brings us down out of our head, gets us back into our bodies, and has a calming effect on our entire system. So, one great exercise that you can do when you lay down and go to bed, you can put your hands on your belly, or you can put one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. And when you inhale, you feel it rise. When you exhale, you feel it drop. And having that stimulation to your hands and connecting you into your body is going to help you relax. So if you just put your intention, and there's different kinds of breathing patterns that you can do. You can do box breathing, which you inhale for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 4, you exhale for a count of 4, and then you pause for a count of 4 before you take that next breath. There's so many different breathing techniques. That's just one that you can try. And another method you can do is when you lay down, you close your eyes and you bring your awareness to every part of your body, starting with your feet. So, okay, now I feel my toes, and you can give your toes a little wiggle. Now I feel my feet, and you can tighten the muscles and then relax them. And
Mm-hmm.
then I always tell people, notice, pay more attention to this is what it feels like to relax. Okay, then you move to your calves, tighten those muscles, and then let them relax. Knees, tighten up the knees, let them relax. Thighs, hips and your glutes, your lower back, your upper back, your shoulders, your arms, your hands, you tighten and let them relax. Your neck, your jaw, your eyes, you can even scrunch up your eyes and then let them relax. And go through feet to head, your entire body, and then you can take those couple deep breaths.
Mm-hmm. That's a good skill too.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna wrap up, but I wanted to say to the viewers, most important part that I view with the sleep is the one that I said, not to give you hard time yourself hard time for not falling asleep or not getting the sleep. Okay. If you start making it into a problem, it becomes a problem. So it's important to talk nicely to yourself and don't go to let it go, let the bad night's sleep go instead of going to the work or somewhere or try to connect with your friends by just talking like, oh, I can't sleep, I couldn't sleep, I never can sleep, and it's just we're going through the days and weeks and months with just talking like, oh, I can't sleep, I can't sleep, I can't sleep, I can't sleep, and it's just that, and your brain just gets used to it. Like, okay, well, she can't sleep, so let's not let her sleep.
Right, right. So a better way to say that would be I'm working on improving the quality of my sleep. I'm working
Yeah,
on getting better sleep.
and for yourself, and like from outside, you don't even not like don't talk about it. Like
Yeah.
if you put more uh into it what it is,
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
people they connect by talking how they can't sleep. Find a different topic,
Right.
you know.
Or make it solution based. Oh, I've been having a little trouble sleeping lately. Oh, me too. Hey, have you noticed anything that does help?
Oh yeah, and what do you do to sleep better? So like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll try that, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay,
Yeah.
like positive, talk about it in a positive way.
Right, right. And just one more thing, I do want to just bring up alcohol real quick because just, kind of like caffeine, it works a little bit differently, but like caffeine will keep you awake and will keep your brain waking up, and you might not even realize it. A lot of people may say, "Oh, well, I have a drink or two before I go to bed to get good sleep." Well, the alcohol will will allow you to fall asleep. But if you notice, you're probably waking up more in the middle of the night and not being able to fall back asleep, because once that alcohol wears off, you do wake up and it is a sleep disruptor. So
Well,
I
I
would
didn't know that.
strongly suggest not to go um, towards the alcohol as a solution for sleep. And just have that awareness. If you, I'm not telling people don't drink. I'm just saying pay attention.
Not
That's
to fall
another thing
asleep.
to pay
Not to
attention.
use
If you're
that to fall
using
asleep.
that substance to fall asleep, you're not really doing yourself any favors as far as the quality of your sleep goes. And especially if you do have something like sleep apnea and you're snoring, it's going to exacerbate those symptoms and make them worse. So, just keep that in mind when you choose to go out and enjoy yourself with a couple drinks or something, that you might not get the best sleep that night.
Hmm. Yeah, and then you have to remake it some other time for sleep and everything like this.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think we got a lot of information out there for everybody to have a good night's sleep or good sleep whatsoever. It doesn't have to be good night's sleep, but that's what people have to find out what their good sleep is. It might be few cycles in the middle of the night. It might be one nap in the daytime if you can, or it might be yoga nidra or meditation in the middle of the day and then sleep the nighttime. And you just have to figure out what is your best sleep.
That's right.
Yeah, have the knowledge and then figure out with all those tips what works for you and then follow that routine.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
good. Okay, Dawn, thank you so much for all the information. Is there anything else you want to end with? Or I think we covered everything.
I think we did great.
Yeah. So maybe some other advice for people from energy work, some clue for that rest of the day for them.
um I would just say take some time to tune into your own self and your own rhythms. And if you are so removed from that, then give yourself a few months' time to just tap in, tune into yourself, paying attention without judgment. And just notice when you're tired. Take a month or two and even keep a little sleep journal or a log of how you're feeling each day. And for the women, where does that line up when with your cycles? um, and just bring more awareness into your body and what works for you specifically. We're all special unique beings and we're not all the same.
Hmm. Great. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
go and enjoy your day and have a good night's sleep tonight.
Sweet dreams.
Bye.
Bye.